Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Not Content Podcast. My name is Jerome and we are going to be continuing our tribute to those we lost in the year of our Lord 2016. We are going to be discussing 1986's Labyrinth, featuring the dearly departed David Bowie. I'm joined, of course, as always, by my good friend Brian. Please leave a 4 or 5 star review on Apple and Spotify to get those algorithms going. Please like and subscribe to us on YouTube. Please click the bell icon for notification. Brian, we're going to be having a lot to talk about kind of at the end of the podcast and housekeeping business because we are going to be very, very busy these next couple months, not just with the regular show, but with a couple of big returns. Brian, we are going to be discussing Jim Henson's attempt to really elevate puppetry even further than he did with the Muppets. This is basically one of two attempts to do that. The first, of course, being the Dark Crystal, which was kind of a commercial failure, but has become kind of a cult classic. And I think this movie is very much in that same vein. It is a movie that I think a lot of people really like, and for some people it really hits hard. But unfortunately, it was a box office disappointment. A budget of $25 million, which now that's nothing, but in 1985, that is not an insignificant amount of money, only making $34 million worldwide, which is really unfortunate because, again, just like Dark Crystal, this movie has absolutely gained a cult following and is beloved by a lot of people. And it's very easy to see why. The very queer coded David Bowie, Jennifer Connelly, kind of her introduction, the incredible puppetry throughout. Like the puppetry is absolutely the best part of this entire setup. But yeah, just incredibly unfortunate that Jim Henson was really trying something and it just didn't work.
I mean, I guess the visuals do work. I mean, that's for sure. It's just the story's a little iffy because Terry Jones, the writer, famous for being part of Monty Python. I think we have to get that out there because that's where that kind of weird, kind of obscure kind of humor comes from, like the puppet peeing in the pool. I think that's more of that Monty Python kind of humor coming in. But nonetheless, like he still did a good job putting the pieces together of the script. It just doesn't really hold well. And I think he's not a great screenwriter. I think he's a good, probably comedy skit writer, if that makes a difference. If there's a difference there, if you can kind of see what I'm saying. Because when you're writing a comedy skit, obviously you're not doing the full 90 pages. You got a quick beginning, middle, and end. With a 90-page script, you have to fill in a lot of gaps, and I felt like he had to fill in a lot of gaps kind of going through it. And I watched some of the behind the scenes that's available on YouTube. And apparently, like he got a lot of inspiration from the puppets. And every time he was trying to fill in the blank for a scene, he would just look at a puppet and fill in the blank with that puppet and just go from there. So he really had a lot of help from Jim Henson in terms of the design. I think the design guided the movie, obviously. But I think for Jim Henson, I think overall it was a good effort from him. Just his strength is not really like writing, though, I think. And that's kind of the thing he needs. He needs kind of like a writer to help guide him through it. And there wasn't really a great writer to guide him through it, but at least you got David Bowie on board and a big budget. Everything's looking good. So I think it's a really overall like fun effort. And apparently it did really well on rentals. So that's always the key around this time frame. Because that's your cult classic kind of sweet spot that gets elevated to the cult classic level. It's done very well, especially in the 80s, 90s, and then when they got released on DVD, apparently the DVD sales were so good that they kind of greenlit a sequel that never took place because rest in peace, David Bowie passed away, and then the people that were attached to it are no longer attached to it. The last rumored person to be attached to the sequel is Robert Eggers, and I don't think Robert Eggers is the guy to do a sequel to this. I don't even think we need a sequel to this. So I think it's a one and
Yeah, I
done,
don't
and
think we
it's a
do
sweet
either.
story, and
I
I
mean,
think it's great. It's time. It stands the test of time because of its
it really
timelessness.
does. It's a great time capsule. I mean, and also we have to point out this is purely by accident, but we are talking about this movie in honor, I guess, of its 40th anniversary because it came out in 1986, and here we are in 2026. So that was an accident. But I mean, I think that this is a very sweet movie in that like it feels very quaint. Like obviously the idea of a baby being captured is very traumatic, but just the way that the stakes are, it's very low stakes in a way. And you're telling a story that feels very in line with movies both of that era and previous to this era, like The Wizard of Oz, Alice in Wonderland. Like I couldn't help but think of Return to Oz when I was watching this. Like obviously, you've got more puppetry. Like there was a lot. It felt like there were a lot more gadgets and whatnot in Return to Oz, but with this movie, it was all about the puppets, and the puppets were very impressive, and some of the characters and some of the performances. I mean, it's really unfortunate, and I think this is going to come up again next year, because I think a lot of people are going to be very sad when Joan Cusack doesn't get nominated for Toy Story 5. But it's just really unfortunate that the Frank Oz's and the Dave Goles and those type of individuals are never going to get the recognition they probably deserve for the work that they do in these kinds of movies. And you look at the cast list and the list of people who are in this, and it's a lot of your favorite puppeteers, and they did some really outstanding work. And I think the other thing that always strikes me about when I watch this movie is that it is so great that everything feels so tangible, like they're puppets, they're not CGI. Like if you make a sequel, like they're gonna CGI everything and it's gonna suck and it's gonna like have none of the charm of this movie, which for all of its flaws, like it is a very charming movie because everything is so tangible. And I think that does make a difference. I really like this is kind of where I'm coming down on so many of these movies is that even if the movie is kind of not the best movie, I think the ones that will stand the test of time are the ones that use a lot less CGI, and the movies that rely so heavily on CGI, I think are going to be increasingly forgotten. And I think that's really unfortunate. I mean, I'm excluding Pixar from that because Pixar is kind of its own thing. But I think a lot of these CGI movies, I mean, they inevitably feel like you're just watching Gray Sludge, and nothing exemplifies that more than the movie that is coming out the week that we're recording this, Supergirl.
Yeah, I get that vibe too. I don't know if they should switch back to 35 millimeter, and that's the difference or the key difference. Because I know some people still shoot on 35 millimeter just for like to say so, but it still becomes digitized. You know what I mean? So you may edit it on the bay, but once it's digitized, it still loses some of that flavor. So it's kind of like it's an iffy kind of category. Because no matter what, I think there's a standard now that everything has to be digitized in order to be streamed or something like that. That's why you get these really messy transfers sometimes. So it's very iffy on that. But with the CGI, you mentioned like in this particular movie, like it rocks how they don't use it because if you look at the Penrose step scene, right? Like and that's the term it's used whenever you see a maze of steps that kind of go up and down in all directions. In the
I
behind the
mean, you
scenes, they
can
kind of
see the seams. Like it's not perfect, but
right.
I still
But in the behind
appreciate
the
the
scenes, they
effort.
show that like they literally just kind of like shifted like the Inception style. Just all they had to do is shift the and rotate the platform or whatever, and David Bowie would just walk underneath, and you know what I mean. And it looks seamless. So very
Well, yeah,
very
I mean, the
cool.
thing is like you're doing that scene, but you also like have to acknowledge the fact that there are puppeteers that have to walk around. I mean, it's really impressive.
Yeah, really really impressive. I think that's probably the best visual of the whole piece for me, and I really love that the little detail, like especially at the beginning of the movie where she enters the labyrinth at first, and the little worm tells her like to look beyond and kind of look deeper, right? And if you kind of look, in terms of like foreground and background kind of thinking, you'll kind of see beyond it, right? The sailboat, so to speak, and she kind of sees through and it's like an illusion. I love that little detail because I think they didn't even like change anything. I think it's just literally like the way it is an illusion. It's an open wall and the camera sees it as a solid wall. So I love that little trick right there. And she was able to just walk through it. And I was like, oh, that's so fucking sick. And the way it's so like just using like illusions camera illusion trickery, just old school style. Just it works sometimes like that. So love that scene, even though it's like a little, part of the movie, but love it.
I also will say that I think this is a great movie for parents to show their kids, because the kids will watch this movie, and if they have a younger sibling, especially if they're much older and they have a younger sibling, they will not wish for them to be captured or taken away because this movie shows that goblins can come and take them away, and then David Bowie will come inside your house and threaten you. That's a thing that could happen.
Definitely. And as being the older brother and 7 years older, I definitely know that vibe for sure, for sure. When I was a kid, except what my lesson came through an episode of Small Wonders. The little girl
Oh
robot.
Jesus Christ, man!
Because the son
Why?
got because every sitcom at that time, family sitcom, had that episode of the new sibling coming in and the older sibling being jealous, and they used that trope in the episode because the The poor little boy is jealous of the little girl that's getting all the
Was it
attention, and
Small
she's a
Wonders
robot.
last season? Because I feel like you do that in the last season when you have nothing
To be
else.
honest,
And
no idea. I didn't even know there was more than one season when I was a child. Like I just watched the brief run that it had on TV. I think I was just
I
waiting
mean,
for
there's
Married with
so
Children to
many
come on.
shows that tried to do that, like add a kid to, spice things up a little bit,
Right,
throw a
and then this
main kid.
automatic storyline pops up of the older sibling getting jealous, right? And you have to fill that in because it's like an automatic thing. And that's what this movie is all about. That's why I don't really like the beginning as much because it's so irrationally thought out. Like, come on, why do you gotta make the little girl so irrational like that to be even
I
beyond
mean,
like?
it is the '80s, Brian, and I know that
And
we're
it's written
talking
by a
about.
man who was on Monty Python. So there you
I mean,
go.
and I know we're talking about Jim Henson, but again, the rule with any movie that comes out around this time is you should assume that it was fueled by cocaine in some form or fashion. So you can never rule that
Hence,
out with Terry
hence the
Jones.
character
But
of the small dude peeing in the pond. Jesus Christ, that gets me every time. And then if you look at the little details on some of the fountains, guess where the hoses are?
absolutely, I I
Yeah, the little
I was
detail.
yeah. I want to talk about the performances. I think Jennifer Connelly. I think she can be really like her character can be really annoying, and I think she's written to be that, and I think she kind of has to perform to that. But as this insanity is going around her, I think she does a good job. I mean, I think it's got to be really challenging to be on a set with puppets, right? Like, I think this is the thing that always gets brought up, like with Michael Caine. Like Michael Caine treated them seriously, even though they were puppets. And Tim Curry was a Muppet, so that's why kind of it worked out. I don't know that she does not reach that level, but she's in a much tougher position because these are not
Yeah.
like your traditional Muppets. And the other thing is like she's 16 years old at the time. Like it's different when you're Bob Hoskins and you're middle aged, or you're Tim Curry and you're middle aged. Like Jennifer Connelly, 16 years old. The only thing that she had done at this point was Once Upon a Time in America, and obviously that is very, very different
Well, here's the
than
thing.
this
You
movie.
forget about Phenomena, which I know because I'm on the horror kind of thing, right? I know my horror movies, and that's a Dario Argento movie that's been on my list. So what I think is that she got cast because of that performance. I haven't seen the full performance, but the clips I've seen is that she's a psychic that can talk to insects. So she's used to interacting with like non-verbal characters on screen, if that makes sense. Like she's interacting with butterflies and insects and that kind of thing, trying to find a killer because that's a Dario
Yeah, I mean
Argento
she
horror
could
movie.
she certainly could be.
So that kind of you can kind of see where they kind of casted her because of that. I can see why. Because again, you mentioned like not a lot of humans on screen, right? It's just the puppets for most of the time.
I mean, the
Uh,
only person that she
yeah,
really
most of the
talks
time
to
is
is
David
David
Bowie.
Bowie.
Yeah, and the parents earlier, but that's exposition. But yeah, it's very like very detailed that way. They probably casted her because of that, I think. I really want to watch that movie. It's we're not going to watch it for Halloween though. It's not a sequel officially to anything, but we're setting up
Yeah, we're
sequel
doing
month and
something very special for that.
yeah,
So
but
let's talk
Dario Argento, if you
about
want to check it out, it's 90 minutes, but it's on my list.
David Bowie, who plays Jareth, the King of the Goblins, and like I can't help but compare what we saw here to Prince. Like Prince, when it comes to the acting, is very, very stiff. David Bowie is he is like I don't know that I can necessarily put him in like a serious Oscar worthy drama, but I mean he does a really good job hamming it up in this movie, and I think that's what this movie needs. I think it needs a Disney villain to really get across what's going on, and I think that it's not quite like animated, like really huge, big performance, but I think it's well calibrated, and I think David Bowie does a really good job here. And like I think he's somebody who in most of the movies he did, he was good. And I think the thing what also works for him is that it for the most part he was always cast in a supporting role, and he never really had to carry a movie necessarily. And I think that's really, really important because if you're asking him to carry a movie, I think it's a lot. I think it's a lot for anybody. And when we saw him win the Last Temptation of Christ, like again, I think he delivers in that movie because he's in the movie for a few minutes. He's not specifically in that movie for an extended period of time.
And then I think the one movie he had the lead in that alien movie where he's an alien, last
The
man
Man
on
Who
Earth,
Fell
is
to
it?
Earth, which
Man
I
of Feather
I
Earth. It's very
which we
nonverbal. It's very nonverbal on that one. So
Right.
you can kind of see
We will
why
not
that
be
works.
discussing that movie. We are going to be doing 1976 month in November. We will
And we're
not
not
be
doing Dirty
discussing.
Harry 3 apparently, so I gotta put that on my own list, which I'm putting together because I think I'm gonna go down that rabbit hole. But yes, David Bowie did The Hunger before this, and I remember watching The Hunger a long, long time ago, and it's a sexy movie. It's one of those sexy vampire movies. It has a good vibe to it. Susan Sarandon's in it, and he's a minor character in that one, but it's a
Isn't
good
that
job.
Tony Scott's first movie?
Yeah, and you can tell it's the vibe, right? And he's doing a vampire movie, but it doesn't totally feel like a vampire movie. It's got that sexy side to it. And then it kind of comes crashing down as a horror movie, if you know what I mean, because it's the third act and it has to come down. So, and that's David Bowie as like an eternal vampire, right? So that fits the bill. And I forget who was the lead in that one, but it wasn't Susan Sarandon, but there was another lead in that one that took a lot of the dialogue, you know what I'm saying, the exposition, and Bowie just had to kind of look pretty there. So in this case, with the dialogue they had to do, it kind of fit because he's telling like a lore and a fantasy tale lore. You can kind of get away with kind of the verbiage with a British accent, if that makes sense. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and then I love how like the way he's dressed is like so rock star iconic. It's like he's you know what I mean? It's like very for the time.
Oh
And
yeah, I
it's
mean this
his
is
movie too at the same time. So
I
it's
think one of the
the
biggest things
dressing
that
is
I'll
great.
you know cocaine influences a lot of movies. MTV does as well, and I think this is a case too. Like there's literally a scene where David Bowie is singing with the puppets, and it's a music video. Like the movie literally becomes a music video for a few minutes, and I think that makes a lot of sense given who's behind it and given like the direction that we were heading in. And I think that with the performances as good as they are, I think it really centers the movie. Like a lot of the weaknesses for me are like in the storytelling. Like I just don't think it totally works. But I think that where Jim Henson is coming from, I think Jim Henson, which I think is very similar to George Lucas, is much more interested in the puppetry and like the advancing of technology and not as concerned with kind of the script. And that's why I think Jim Henson is much better as a creative force than as somebody who is like sitting down directing the movie, sitting down writing the movie.
I agree on that. And Terry Jones in the interview said that he got a lot of influence from Yoda, which of course is Jim Henson creation. So you can kind of see the connections right there, the chicken and the egg, in terms of like the influence. So
Yeah.
Jim Henson is very much that creative force through a lot of stuff in the 80s. And you know, I never watched the Dark Crystal sequel, but I just felt like, you know, as a show, it doesn't, I don't see it as a show. It probably should have been a 90-minute movie and I watched it kind of thing. So it's kind of
I mean,
unfortunate,
it's
but
really good. Like it's shockingly good, but it was too expensive. It's
right.
easy to see why it was one and done. But again, I mean, it was Game of Thrones with puppets and not nearly as violent. It's amazing to me how good that movie is. Shockingly so.
For sure. And this would be Jim Henson's actual last directorial effort. He would die 4 years later, unfortunately. So this is kind of like, you know, his third attempt at a film, but like you can tell he's more of the TV guy, right? I mean, I think you can tell that by like that sequence where like the Muppets that remove their heads. I know they're not Muppets, but they feel very like Phenomena Muppety, right?
I mean,
And
it's Jim
then they're
Henson.
taking their heads off, and it's pretty much that middle of the Muppets episode where you have that musical interlude with the you know with the Muppets doing some kind of wacky song. That was that moment, and it totally fit this vibe. So I really enjoyed that. So it's a fun vibe for sure. And you know, I probably should have got this in a 4K, but you know, the stream was fine on YouTube. So, but I'm pretty sure there's a sweet 4K out there that I probably don't know about. But yeah, get the Blu-ray for sure if you can. I think I got the Digibook somewhere in my collection. But yeah, it's a fun watch. 6.5 out of 10. I'm leaning towards 7, but like it's just the beginning is so kind of, you know, so poorly written for the character for Jennifer Connelly.
It's a very clunky stuff.
It's very
It's
unlikable, but she turns it around with her performance, making you root for her at the end.
Yeah, I
So
mean they really challenge you, and I think that this is something that's very common with a lot of '80s movies. They were not as they were not afraid to make their protagonists unlikable, and I think it's kind of charming because you don't really see that anymore with so many of these. But yeah, I'm right there with you. I think 6.5 or 7 out of 10 is about where I'm at. I mean, I think that in terms of the existence of this movie, I'm really glad it does exist because it is not only a fine it's not only a fine time capsule, but it serves as a great vehicle for David Bowie. It serves as a great kind of leading like this movie proves that Jennifer Connelly can lead a movie, right? And I think that's important because I think he would go on to have a really solid career. And you know, what I think is interesting is that we have talked about three Jennifer Connelly movies in at like three very different periods of time. And at some point, we probably need to do A Beautiful Mind because that's the movie she won the Oscar for.
Oh man, that's a depressing ass movie, Jerome. I mean, I get you, but man,
Maybe not.
Jesus
I
Christ.
mean, we talked about The Rocketeer,
Spoiler
right?
alert, the friends are not real. The friends are not real. Oh my God. Yeah, that was a heartbreaker. But yeah,
We
Jennifer
saw.
Connelly
No,
can
I'm sorry,
definitely lead a
four
movie for sure.
movies. We had discussed Once Upon a Time in America as well.
Well, we didn't fully do a review of it. I think we were discussing it as part of our possible director's cut month that we were kind of sort of planning, but God knows if we want to watch the director's
Yes,
cut of that, that's
yes.
going to be epically long.
Maybe, yeah. I mean, what a long movie, and what a not nearly as good of a movie as I thought it would
And
be.
you like the director's cut even though it's too long, right? Are you the opposite direction?
I watched the really long one, and I thought it was too long.
Okay, because that's the one that Gene Siskel liked. So
So the
apparently,
only three movies of Jennifer Connelly's that we've talked about are Hulk, Rocketeer, and this. Right? That's what I'm
right,
feeling.
right.
Yeah,
Career opportunities, that's a maybe because it's nostalgic for Target, but I do like how Target hasn't really changed much, so I like that fact. So
that
it's
is
not as
pretty interesting.
nostalgic,
But yeah,
but
this movie
yeah.
is. I mean, I don't think we need to convince anybody, but like this is definitely worth a
I
watch.
do want to
And
point out though really quick that I noticed that Princess Bride came out a year later, and
yep,
coincidentally, you got an Inigo Montoya type character with a horse dog thing,
yep.
and you got a giant doing the background work. Just saying,
I
just
mean,
saying.
it's a
It
fantasy
works
trope.
both ways. Works both
I
ways.
think it's a fantasy trope. That's why I would say
You
that
can have
happened.
so many giants and so many Inigo Montoyas, no one's gonna notice. So that's fantasy work for you.
All right, so that is it for this month. But next week, let's start the housekeeping, Brian. We are not doing a movie next week. We are not doing a right match in July, so we're splitting the difference and we're doing something very different. Brian, what are we doing next week?
So we kind of talked about this last year, how about the Great American Bash '89 and how it's probably both of our favorite WCW pay-per-views, probably, most likely, right? Right?
Yeah,
Okay, making sure because I mean we both hold it close to our hearts, and this card is unbelievable, stacked top to bottom. Even the lower card stuff is like so fun, and you see the rise of like Flying Brian, Sid Vicious, right? Like in the early card, the Steiners, and then it ends up with Flair and Funk at the end. You get a War Games, you get the U.S. title, you get Luger, and probably the best he's looked as a heel ever. So it's one of our favorites, and we'll talk about probably the history of our first time watching it, and then we'll review the whole card as a whole. But it's gonna be a fun talk. We're splitting the difference. And then the next month is Greek month. Greek month, and I've been planning this since last year, since I saw the trailer or the teaser trailer for the Odyssey. So we're gonna start out with Hercules, the Disney movie, and then we're gonna move on to Jason of the Argonauts, which Ray Harryhausen classic that we've been talking about Ray Harryhausen for so long that we can finally squeeze a movie in. And then we're gonna watch the Odyssey TV movie from 1997 with Armand Assante that has been
what a
going
time
around
capsule.
now
Let me tell you, what a time capsule.
because the CGI effects for TV at the time were something else, folks. But if you want to try to get it on DVD right now, it's spiked in price, obviously. So you might want to just stream it on that one. It's not even on Blu-ray, I don't think. So it's DVD only, and that tells you the quality of the work we're going to watch. But it's a TV movie. So, and the last but not least, we're going to end it with The Return that recently came out. I watched it 2 years ago when it's first streamed. It's basically the last third part of the Odyssey, just told as like a realistic, down-to-earth story with Ray Fiennes in the role in the main title role of the Odyssey, or what's his name? Ulysses. Um,
Yep.
Odysseus, or not Odysseus, but Ulysses. And yeah, it's just basically the last third act or the last third of it, and it's told grounded, very well done. And I thought it's very underrated. No one really watched it, so we'll check that out as well because it's a good follow-up to what you'll see in the TV Odyssey, and we'll talk about all that. And there's not really a movie I wanted to pair with Hercules because that would mean we would have to watch a Hercules match, and there's not a lot of good ones. So I saved us some effort from that one. So we're gonna watch the
I
match
mean,
next week, and that's how it is.
we are not going to watch the Ultimate Warrior versus Hercules from WrestleMania 4. We're just not going to do
Or
that.
the chain goes flying. The chain goes flying.
When he wrestled Billy Jerk Haynes at WrestleMania 3.
Also, the chain went flying, but the opposite way, because I think Billy Jack stole the chain from Hercules. And there's some New Japan matches you're probably gonna watch, but they're really hard to find, and it's from a limited time frame, and it's usually the ones where he teams up with Scott Norton, so they're not as interesting. I think
Ugh.
there's one with Liger though, but you gotta go find it.
Yeah. So in the month of July, we are also going to be talking about the X-Men season two of X-Men 97. I am very, very excited for this show to return. It is returning on Wednesday, July the 1st, with a 3 episode premiere. And we are going to watch the 3 episodes, and then we are going to be recording YouTube exclusives, just like we did, I think, 2 years ago for X-Men
Something like
97.
that. But I think the thing that gets me is, did you see the episode title list?
They're going in some weird places, man.
Because
The
they're
titles are very
seemingly like
interesting.
sequels to all other past episodes, if that makes sense. Like all the titles are like some knockoff or some sequel looking title of a previous episode. So it's like, what are we doing here? What are we doing here? But it's very curious because I
I'm
think we're
really
going time
excited. I'm
travel,
really
time
excited.
time travel, time travel.
Yeah, we're time traveling again, except we're going in even different directions, and we're getting new uniforms across the board, it seems. So that is very exciting. And then at the end of July, I don't know how we're going to negotiate this, but Batman Caped Crusader is also coming back at the end of the month. We discussed the first season. I think we did it similar. I think we did 2 episodes at a time, right?
Something like that, but I think maybe we should do a single run because we also maybe we should do a recording of Spider Noir at some point because that was really great. I haven't finished it yet, but I'm slow burning it, and you burned it really quick, and you gave it a high rating, and I'm kind of almost there on your rating. I may do a rewatch because I think I want to watch the whole
It
thing
is.
again in
It's
color
very good. It
because I
is.
watched it in
It
black and
is.
white. So we may have to
It
do maybe
is
a separate bonus
really, really
recordings
good.
of Batman, Kid
So,
Crusader, and Spider
so
Noir since
here's
they're
what I
both
will
Amazon.
say, Brian. Batman Cape Crusader is coming out all in one shot. So it is coming out all 10 episodes at the same time. So we can probably figure out how to do that at some point. We'll probably talk more about
Yeah,
that
and then
off the
August
air.
is going to be something kind of interesting regarding brothers, and we'll kind of leave it at that. But it's going to be an awesome right match, that's for sure, because that's one of our favorite Coliseum media matches ever put on tape. So,
Yeah. And yeah, we definitely have plans for the rest of the year. For Brian, I'm Jerome. Thank you so much for listening, and we will talk to you again next week.